Hey everybody, this is Jim from SP500chart.com, where we use time-honored techniques to understand modern markets. And we're going to do a video to kind of digest what happened to ARNA Pharmaceuticals on Friday of this past week. They had some disappointing news on the with the European Union. They withdrew their application. And there's some debate as to whether that's a good move, a bad move. Certainly it's disappointing in the short term. So we're going to take a look at the chart and see what happened on Friday and get a feel, hopefully, for what to look for coming into the week of May 6th. Before I get into it, I need to remind you that my website and this video are for educational purposes only, and that nothing stated at the site or in this video is intended to be used as investment advice. I can draw I can't talk. I can draw lines on charts though, but you have to draw your own conclusions from your own research and make investment decisions that are suitable for your personal financial situation. I'm not a licensed financial professional. I'm just a guy who draws lines on charts. So let's take a look at ARNA Pharmaceuticals. If I say something in this video that doesn't make sense, or you feel like you need to get more information, I've got two other videos on this stock. So go to YouTube, oldschoolchartist, and look that up. So what we're dealing with here is a stock that moved up big on FDA approval and has essentially gone sideways for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, starting the 12th month. The fact that it is hung in this area for this long tells you that there is a battle going on, and eventually this battle will get resolved, either to go up or to come down. And I personally think it's going to go up, but there's no guarantee until it does. And what I see here is a consolidation pattern. All that means is, all a consolidation is, it's a pause in the momentum for the market to make up its mind which way it's going to go next. You see this quite frequently. So we've been in this pattern for now starting really the 12th month. And this pattern has a lower boundary that is upsloping, and it has an upper boundary that is downsloping. It's kind of interesting to note that previously, when this upper barrier was touched, which by the way, it was tagged at a point in time when nobody could have drawn that line, because you can't draw a meaningful line with one point. So we needed to wait for the move in January before we even knew that now we have a resistance line. But what's interesting is ARNA went up, tagged this top line, came down, tagged the bottom line twice, came back up, tagged the top line, tagged the bottom line. I did not think we were going to come down for a second round on this bottom line. But the disappointing news with the European Union withdrawal caused a sell-off on Friday. Someone asked me, I believe after hours on Thursday, what do you think's going to happen? And I pointed out, I said, I think we've got 3 levels of support. And at the time, this line is it used to be on the chart, and then I changed it. Ignore this for now. At the time, I said I thought that there was support right around 8. And I said, you can kiss that goodbye. Then I said, there's another support line that could come into play at 764. And then there's a support line that would be at about 750. And my feeling was this line might hold, but I kind of got a feeling that we were going to get moved down to more major support. And lo and behold, if we take a look at what happened on Friday, trying to grab my little, there we go. We came right down to this 750 line, bounced once, rallied up a bit, came back, kind of tested it again, then later in the afternoon came right back to 750 and started to bounce again. Now coming into Monday, I'm not going to be I don't want to say that ARNA is out of the woods, because we've bounced twice. That doesn't mean it's a done deal. It means there is support there. But you can see we also are not getting over the top of this line right here. We did briefly in the early part of the session on Friday, but twice we came up to try to get over that roughly mid 760s line. Couldn't do it. So I'm looking right now at roughly 764, 765 as a resistance line that I would love, as a long, I would love to see ARNA get over on Monday. And if it can, then I think we're going to hit some resistance up around the 770s. And if it can get over that, in other words, this has to be rebuilt. Now, so there were two things technically that happened on Friday that I find really, really interesting. The first one is I just expressed that long-term lower support line right here, that stopped the selling pressure. By the way, if that were to give way, then I think we would look towards something in the mid-sixes at this red line. But for now, this line is held. So going forward, the other thing that's interesting is, there are times when you can look at a chart formation and you can see from that formation that there is an expected outcome based upon a move out of a pattern. I'll give you an example. On the 26th and 27th and part of the 26th, 29th and part of the 30th, the ARNA had made this little back and forth pattern right here. And you see it's bounded by this line and this line. Once it broke out of that, it came back to about the breakout level, and then it went on up. And we can measure the height of this line. We knew once it broke out of this little range right here that we would expect a move up to at least 840 and some change. And once it did, it consolidated a little bit and then got up there and got to 840 and change. Additionally, even this little consolidation pattern carried with it an expected move, an expected minimum move. Once it got over this little line here, we knew to look for at least 840. And it exceeded that. It exceeded both of those expectations of these two little patterns. So once we got over 815, we kind of had a sense from the chart that 840 was in the works. Now, we also had a larger pattern. And here's the bottom line that had been supporting the last two bottoms that lined up. Had a nice breakout and then came back. I thought this breakout was going to consolidate and we were going to head over 850. We're going to get up into some serious territory. I believe I was looking for something around 10. Yeah, we were looking for about 10 if this move had continued over 855 with good volume and good conviction. Instead, we break down. And let's look at the pattern that it developed prior to the breakdown. We had what looked like it was going to be an ascending triangle. That means a relatively flat top and an ascending bottom. But since it broke down, we can still get an idea on what to expect with that breakdown. We measure the height of this pattern from where the first reactive move took place inside of it, and then we add this to where it broke down, which would have been right at the open on Friday, and we knew that we would expect a move down to at least 754. I find that interesting. So what that means going forward, there is nothing on the chart that tells us specifically to expect anything lower than what we've seen. That doesn't mean it will not go lower. What it means is that the pressure of those people who bought up here in the mid to low 8s, when we broke down, we would expect selling pressure to move ARNA down to the 754 area as a minimum target. So does that mean we're going to bounce here and just go on as if nothing happened? No. But what it means is, okay, if we had come down to 771 and traded sideways all day long, I would have to tell you, hey guys, we got a larger pattern up here that should be pushing things down to the 750s. I don't think the 770s are going to hold. We got more selling pressure that we've got to absorb into the market. So with this move down to 750, I can't point to this pattern and say expect more downside. But that does not mean I can say expect upside. It just means there's no reason in the chart right now for us to say we should be reasonably expecting more downside. I want to say that again. There's nothing in the chart right now that says we should reasonably be expecting more downside. But there's nothing in the chart that absolutely prohibits it. This line tells us we should find support there. We did. But this could be tested again, and it's not impossible for this line to break. So that's where we are going into Monday. If we look at a 3-minute chart, you can see that we kind of bounced around a bit between, I'm going to get rid of my oval. We kind of bounced around a bit most of the day between about 764 and 750. So we got this little 14-point area that we're moving up and around in. If this breaks, then I would expect a move to the high 770s as a result of that. And once there, we're probably going to find some resistance there too. But let's back off just for a little bit. I want to show you one more thing, then I'll wrap this up. And that thing is, one interpretation of what has taken place since late March throughout the entire month of April is that we were in a descending wedge. And a descending wedge usually has a bullish outcome, because you have these smaller, what's a good way to put it? You have smaller fluctuations to where eventually it just has a tendency to produce a reversal. Now, inside of this wedge, we also had what looked to be kind of a channel. So there's a little ambiguity as to really, do we count this one these 2 days of getting up into the mid-high 8s, is that enough to really redefine everything that happened over the past month? That's a good question. But if we are in a descending wedge, there is something that's kind of interesting about wedge formations that I have noticed over the time that I've been doing this. And that is, if you look, here's your resistance line in that wedge. Let me move that to where it takes in as many of these tops as I can. Here's your resistance line. Here's your support line. If you look at where the apex is, it lines up exactly with that bottom line in our larger triangle. That's very interesting, because often the apex of a wedge will land on a level that is technically important. And if we snap a horizontal line right on, that didn't snap it right where I wanted it. If we snap a horizontal line right on that apex, you can see that is also almost exactly where ARNA bounced on Friday. So guys, it would really be nice, what would be excellent, would be even for us to get back into this wedge pattern and then break out again. This may have been a premature breakout on the 25th, because typically you have 6 turns in a wedge pattern. And here we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we never came down for that typical 6th turn. So it could be that this move really didn't have the full effect of this descending wedge consolidation at its back. With this move now underneath this line, if we can get back into this pattern, then break out again, that breakout should be more solid and more significant. So guys, that's the video. By the way, somebody mentioned they thought that I think they just misspoke, but you know, it'd really be great to see a rally here, and then for us to get the 50-day moving average to cross up again and take out and pierce this 200-day average. That would be wonderful. I'm not a big moving average kind of guy, but that would be a good sign. Some people may look at where the 50-day crossed the 200 here and say that's a death cross. It's not. The reason it's not is because the 200-day is not sloping down. If the 200-day had been sloping down and you had gotten the 50-day moving down through it, that's bad news. But you will often see little crossing like this, frankly, as just a part of a consolidation, part of being in a lower part of a trading range for a little bit, and then you get an upturn into the pattern, at which point you would potentially take out the 200-day with the 50-day. So let's see for right now, going into Monday, the question will be, will this line down here at 750 continue to hold? Will we take out 764 and get into the 770s? And if we do, will we be able to break out over this top line again and start a renewed move into the 8s? Guys, that's it. So far the chart has worked great. 750 held on Friday. Let's see if it continues to hold throughout the week. We've satisfied that that target from that triangle that broke down on Friday. So we can't look to that pattern and say, well, I'm expecting 711. Can't say that. We were expecting 754. Got it. Plus 4 cents. So that's it. I hope you learned something from this. Come visit me at sp500chart.com if you get a chance. Thanks. Take care.